Hello, everyone. Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to Q&A with Bree and Pat, and I am so blessed to be here. Hey, Pat.
Good morning. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Well, yeah, well, it's more like afternoon. It's afternoon.
Afternoon, yeah. Depend
No,
on where you live. Morning, evening, afternoon,
yeah,
everybody.
depending on where you are so right. So I am so glad for you guys to be joining us here today. And today's conversation is simply about something that every leader faces, right? And it's that is when is it time? When is it time to speak up and when is it time to stay silent? Sometimes there are moments when our voices can make a difference, right? And there's also moments when listening, gathering information and choosing the right time to speak is the wiser path. So how do we know the difference, right? And that's a big thing for our leaders, right?
Mhm.
First, before we continue, I want all our viewers to know that me and Pat, we come on every Tuesday and Thursday at noon. I'm going to say noonish because sometimes we start at like 12:05, but no, no fear because we are coming. Okay, as we learn and grow in this path of technology, we are getting it together and we are growing. So we just want you guys to remember that we come on here for us to have conversations. So we will love your feedback. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel everywhere that you see us on our Facebook and YouTube channels. We want to hear back from you. Reach out, get in the comments. We want to hear your voice. You know that we are the veteran community. We are tailored towards the veteran community, those in leadership positions, community leaders, and those that audience of that nature. So we are only going to be as powerful when we are united. So we need your
Yes.
feedback. We're not just getting on here for you to see our beautiful faces every day. We want to hear from you. We want to hear from you. Without something drastic will have to happen for me and Pat not to show up. So we
Exactly.
not just here to just be talking to ourselves, but we are here to pour into the community. So with that being said, how do you know the difference? How do you know the difference? Silence can become wisdom. Sometimes silence allows us to, let's see, sometimes silence allows us to learn, um, listen.
Silence allows us to get understanding of the complete situation and the circumstance. So sometimes it's always good if you don't know what to say or you're emotional to step back away from a conversation, take time to think about it and look at the picture from the total view of both sides before you give a response.
Before you react, yeah. It allows us to de-escalate too. We can, when you learn to just pause for a sentence, for a moment, you can de-escalate some things or either gather the facts before reacting.
Yeah, especially if it's a really intense conversation about certain topics, because certain topics lead to really intense emotions for people. And in those situations, taking time to just stop before you respond, and de-escalate it a little bit, give each other breathing space.
And listen. Listening is the biggest thing too. Listening and communicating uh,
Yes.
some things.
And not
That
turning it into a personal attack. Keeping it
right,
on topic and not making it personal
right.
can also help in de-escalation and not letting emotions get that high.
That's right. Silence allows you to do a few of those things that we just pointed
Mhm.
out. So my question is have you ever been glad you waited before responding? That's my question. Have you ever been glad before? Have you ever been glad you waited for responding? That's happened to me so many times, Pat. I'm like, man, I'm glad I didn't just fly off the handle, and say
Yeah,
what in the moment of anger.
because some of the stuff that go across my head, I'm like, ooh, I'm glad that ticker in my head did not come out my mouth. Because you're right. Sometimes we get emotional about things, or we're really passionate about a particular topic or a particular situation or circumstance because it might pertain to us that we're going off of our emotions. And we shouldn't respond in an emotional state. So some stuff, I've been that way a lot too as well. What's going across my head, I'm glad it didn't come out my mouth. And I just stepped back and I was like, wait a minute, Pat, don't say nothing, because it's going to be the wrong thing if you say it, and it's going to make things 10 times worse.
10 times.
So definitely you should always think before you speak, as my parents always said.
Mm-hmm. And especially as a leader, especially as a leader in the military, we have to learn that discipline when we're dealing with soldiers, when we're dealing with situations, especially when you have that command over you, or you're commanding over someone else. Sometimes you just have to evaluate. You know how our soldiers are, Pat. I don't know if it was like that in the FBI. I don't know. Well, I don't even know what the FBI realm was, but how was it in your realm? I could tell you from my standpoint, how I had to deal with it. But I think that I would love to know how you deal with that working in
Well,
the FBI.
the FBI is a little bit more political stance. So there's all ranks, and you deal with government, high ranking government officials. You also deal with people in civilian companies and things of that nature. So you have a mixture of, when you're working on projects, I had a mixture of government people where there was something the government was doing, but we were utilizing civilian companies, like say Facebook, not Facebook, say like Microsoft
Mhm.
and Google and things of that nature. So it's just like any other organization. It's just like being a human being.
Right.
When you speak, speak respectfully. When you
Yeah.
speak, speak thoughtfully. Think before you speak. Never make anything as a personal attack or based upon just your personal views, because your personal views are geared toward you. You have to think about the entire picture, every demographic that you're talking to or you're trying to reach. And that plays out in everything that you do, especially as a speaker. You can't, you unless you're speaking to only one particular type of crowd. You have to look at the demographic that you're speaking to, and if you're trying to reach everyone and teach everyone, then you have to speak in a unified voice
Mhm.
to bring everybody together. You can't speak in a voice where it would cause dissension or cause somebody to feel isolated.
Right.
So working in the FB is really it's a
It's
lot.
it's
It
a
was a lot. It was a lot because you talk to people. I worked on government presidential projects and everything like that. So it's a lot, and there's stress and the deadlines of not being able, making sure you meet that and exceed the expectation of what was done. So, but with everything, as long as you keep it, like I said, respectful
respectful.
and
Yeah.
mindful of the audience in which you are speaking, and speak to that particular audience, you're okay.
Okay. So I would say from my experience, when I would say that sometimes when I'm glad that I waited before I responded, is when you have the leadership above you, and it's like, oh, you just want to just all my veterans out there, come on, all my leaders, all soldiers that are out there listening, even if
That
you're
is definitely true.
even if you're in the civilian leadership community, okay, we all know that we had that one time that we were so glad that we waited before responding, because sometimes you have to sit back. And I know, as a enlisted soldier, sometimes you have to fill out where or what is the leadership saying right now before I just blurt out, because sometimes I'm like, oh, sir, that don't make no daggone sense. Like, no, that just don't make no daggone
Exactly.
sense. It's like, okay, wait a minute, let me be silent a little bit so I can learn a little bit and listen to what they're saying before I just,
And why they're saying it.
and
Yeah.
even for my soldiers, those underneath me, you know,
Yep.
just learning to gather the facts. You know how soldiers are, when you over soldiers, and you have to gather the facts before you just go in and just blame that one person. I've always been taught that, and always seen that you can get more bees with honey than you can with salt. So I was that
Yeah.
kind of leadership where I was firm, but I also wanted to gather my facts,
Me
learn
as well.
to de-escalate stuff and listen. So um, all of those were qualities within my leadership style. But I want to say that sometimes, silence can cost us something
Yes.
too. Silence can
Especially
also,
being a soldier, it can
oh,
definitely cost.
not even a soldier, a leader, period.
Yeah,
Silence,
the reason I say a soldier, because when I was deployed, silence in a lot of places during the deployment can cost lives, especially if you
oh yeah,
know something shouldn't take place. So definitely, if it'll cost a project, cost millions of dollars for a project in the civilian sector, or if you're deployed, or if it would just cost the personnel, add personnel stress, and there's a better way to do something. Because the point you said that was really important was that the fact of if the person is a superior um, to everybody, and they have something and they have a way, and you're like, oh, sir, that just that don't make sense.
yeah.
That shouldn't happen. And the reason being, they're looking on some leaders only look from their point of view and what they know needs to happen. But
Mm.
they don't have an ear down for the soldiers and what's really happening down there. That's why we as NCOs had to be that conduit between the higher ups and the soldiers to let them understand, sir, this is why, because this will take place, because they might not know. The same thing when you're in the civilian sector, when you're talking to somebody, everybody doesn't have the same picture. Everybody doesn't have the same information. So when Bree said, she takes the time back and she listens and she gathers, that's wisdom. That's wisdom and understanding. You have to have the wisdom to know, it's wisdom to know when you need to pull back and when you need to speak up. And you might need to speak up, but you might need to pull back and get how you're going to articulate that to the person, put together before you even speak.
Sometimes the things that stay in silence can cost is if you just sit back and don't say anything. I know that we were talking Tuesday. We were talking about General Donahue. What's his name? I think it was General Donahue, and we were talking about him leaving command and how he just left gracefully. So this conversation is kind of a caveat to that, to say, he could have probably done a lot of things. He could have probably just reacted and been very
Right.
angry and done and said all kinds of things to
Because I'm sure he was hurt. If he wasn't ready to go, he was hurt and just partly disappointed. Because he definitely had a very strong career.
but yeah, and so that's why sometimes staying silent
Silent
allows
is good.
some problems to continue, opportunities to pass, people to be mistreated,
Or ruins the reputation
fear
that you built.
to make decisions for us. Fear will make fear to make decisions for us. I have
Yeah.
to ask that, have you ever regretted not speaking up? And I know, to my viewers out there, we got some viewers here. Go ahead, like I said, write in the comments. Have you ever regretted not speaking up in the military? Now, there's all kinds of ways that I'm sure that, these things can be done. Okay. You can speak up for something that's not right without being belligerent or just loud and void. You can be so, and that's one thing I had to learn in my military career, is how to do it professionally. How to do it professionally and when to do it professionally. So
But also,
we have to
one,
use our voices. Our voices
right.
are very important. So speaking up, there was I will tell this story right here.
Okay.
There was a situation in the military, and I had already been sharp and all those other sharp, equal opportunity,
Right.
and I knew that this NCO would act inappropriately, and I myself was like, okay, I've been through things. I know how to handle this. I know how to handle him. So I'm not going to worry about that. I'm not going to let him. And when he comes to me, he acts inappropriately, I'm going to stop him in his tracks, right?
Mhm.
I regretted not telling someone when I found out that NCO was
Inappropriate.
sexually assaulting another soldier in a bad way. It
Right.
was it was jaw dropping when it come that it went to court. It came out in court. They when it was investigated, I was one of the soldiers who wrote that, hey, yeah, I had a problem, and this would have happened. So as being the senior non-commissioned officer and those soldiers underneath me, when I was asked in court, why didn't you speak up? Or why didn't you say something before, this soldier? My heart dropped. My heart, and I regretted not speaking up because in my mind, it's just like, hey, I can handle this. I know he come for me.
Right.
I'm just going to give him the business. But I didn't think about all those others
Others. Yeah.
that could have been affected. So I could have saved that soldier. And that still haunts me to this day. This is why now I use my voice and I speak up for those things that are right. So yes, I have regretted not speaking up. And that was one of them because I could have probably saved a few more soldiers. Just thinking in my mindset that, hey, I can handle myself. But what about those after me?
Other people. Yeah,
Yeah.
because some people might not be as strong, like you're a strong person, and some people aren't as strong and they can't deal with a lot of that stress and they don't know what to say because they could be threatened. Their fear can come in, and like you say, fear
Yeah.
paralyzes a lot of people
Yes, it sure does.
into not speaking. So they tolerate certain type of behavior or mistreatment out of fear. And you should never tolerate mistreatment under any circumstances at
That's right.
all.
It's
And
it doesn't mean that you have to be disrespectful. And
exactly.
especially important for our veterans, especially in today's military realm, okay? Because look, I just, I'm still connected to the military. I'm still connected. My son is my son is still a soldier. He's in the reserves. I still have soldiers that came up underneath me in the ranks, and the things that things that you see on the news. It's like, oh my God, sometimes it just makes me want to put back on that uniform and be like, no, look, listen, and I just pray for the strength of those that are in leadership now. Like, you have a voice, you can say something like, hey, yeah, what was the famous word? With all due respect, staff drill sergeant.
Exactly. All due respect.
But when it comes to soldiers' lives, okay, when it comes to, because it's not just about one single person,
It's about everybody.
it's about the collective.
Yes.
So you can find ways that you can respect authority without being disrespectful. It's like a professional disagreement. Like, hey, I had especially when you out there in the war zone.
Yes, definitely. Oh yeah.
No,
Yeah.
like I'm not about.
Everybody's already stressed out. We don't need any. We definitely didn't need any extra out there at all.
No extra out there at all.
But you made a point. You made a point to speaking up, but you also started touching on something that I kind of want you to elaborate on how you feel about knowing when to speak and not speaking in front of other people. Not necessary. Sometimes you can make on what we call in the military on the spot corrections, where everybody's there, but then there's times when you have to pull a person to the side and you have to go behind closed doors, not because it's anything aggressive, but just because it's a conversation that needs to go deeper, that needs more explanation, that shouldn't be done in front of other people. What's your takes on those type of situations?
Say that one more time, Pat.
I said, what's your take on situations on when to speak, whether on the spot, say you're in formation, like on the spot versus,
yeah.
hey, sorry, can I talk to you? Can I talk to you over at the side or a little bit later?
It's all about the timing. It's all about the timing, because you never want to, whether it's a leader or a soldier, and that goes in the civilian sector. You got to know when to approach. It's all about the timing. So, and even in my family, okay, I can use this. My husband, everybody parents differently, right? So if my husband is a little aggressive or I don't agree with something he says, we can take and turn this to any kind of, any kind of situation. I won't, I'm sorry, I should have turned my phone off, y'all. Bless my heart. But I won't sit right there and blast. I'm like, hey man, I'll be like,
Right.
I'll wait. And then I'll talk to him, say, hey babe, you could have done that. And it's all about the tone too.
Right.
It's about your tone. You have when I'm talking, even to my children, when and as they are adults I use a certain tone to let them know I'm not attacking you, but hey, the way that you are doing X, Y, and Z, I just don't agree with how it's coming across. So that's how
Right.
I would deal with, my soldiers or my leadership. I would just kind of wait because if you're trying to talk to your leadership right then and there, it's all at the heat of the moment. Everybody's just going
Yeah.
to bump their heads, and the fire, you just throwing more fuel on the flames. So it's like, okay, timing, tone, and then you have to use emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence to say,
We
okay,
just made the 3 T's.
yeah,
Timing, tone, and tact.
yes, and I'm not going to sit up here and say that that's an easy thing because sometimes
Mhm.
we let our emotions get the best of us, especially us as women. But in the military, that's another thing I didn't want to be seen as. Not that I wanted to be respected as a female, but I didn't want to be seen as, oh, I got she's a female. No, I'm a soldier.
I'm a soldier. Right.
Okay, so respect me as that, and don't talk to me like, oh well, you know,
Exactly.
give
Exactly.
it to me how you gonna give it to the male soldiers because I can take this. I'm a soldier at the end of the day. What
Yes.
just talk to me with respect. Even if you were above me, if you were above me and you talk to me nasty, you're it's like
Yeah. I don't hear you.
and that's what I would do with my soldiers. I talked to them with respect. I treated them like first they were a human being inside that
Yes.
uniform. So that is another question that arises for me is that can you challenge an idea while still honoring the person? Let's hear from our audience. Put those in the comments, okay? Can you challenge an idea while still honoring the person? And so, yeah, and I say that can be done. That can be done. You can still, challenge ideas, but it's still honoring the person. And
I
not
agree.
not everyone is perfect. People make mistakes, parents make mistakes, leaders
Mistakes.
make mistakes.
We all do.
Challenge their ideas while you still respect them as a commander, staff sergeant, boss, the executive
Yeah,
CEO. You can do that. So
definitely.
courage looks different in different seasons. Sometimes courage is speaking, sometimes courage is listening.
Yes.
Okay, you can listen and still have courage. Sometimes courage is asking questions. Okay,
Yes.
and let me tell
Yes.
you, our audience may not believe this, but sometimes courage is walking
Oh,
away.
wait. Yes.
Okay, I will tell my grandchildren that I don't know what it is with the kids nowadays. They don't want to feel like they a punk or whatever.
Yeah,
They
right.
just look. It
Yeah.
that is not always the case.
Yeah.
Courage can
Or
be
that they
walking
soft.
away or just being like, that whatever. And the I and the reason why I love speaking, I love some of these topics that we come up with because it reminds me of the younger soldier, and that is where my passion is too, with the younger soldiers, the younger generation. To get them in that mind frame, like, hey, here I've been there and done that, because I used to challenge, first sergeants or whatever, know. Oh man, if I tell y'all some of the stories, you'd be like, no, no, but yeah, sometimes you have to
Look,
have
I got in trouble in basic training. I got in trouble in basic training because they told me they was like, "You too happy, you smile too much, and you always have an opinion." I do. So he said, "So every time you see me, I cross your path, no matter how many times my drill sergeant said you need to drop and give me 10 push-ups." So I was still drop and give 10 push-ups, and I trust me, I maxed out push-ups
right.
and
Look,
everything. But it's like it's like some stuff, like you said, it's like we're not perfect.
yeah, no.
And it's a learning process because you have to learn, you have to take it's hard sometimes to take the other person in consideration when you're passionate about something, because like Bree could be just as passionate about what I'm passionate about, but have a different viewpoint. And you got to be willing to listen to what, like, I have to be willing to listen to what viewpoint Bree has and what she has to say. And you just have to be respectful of the person, because their viewpoint is important to them the same way yours is to you. And don't make things personal and start personally attacking because they don't see things the same way that you see them. Because keeping it on top, just keep stuff on topic. Don't make it personal, because they're entitled to their opinion, whether you agree or not.
That's right. The key is acting with integrity rather than reacting out of emotion. And I want to ask my audience here, because we are coming to our closing time. And I want to ask, when has speaking up changed your life? When has staying silent protected you? What's harder for you, speaking up? What's harder for you, speaking up or staying quiet? How do you teach younger leaders to communicate with courage and respect? And then I would like to for y'all to just put those answers, or ask some questions. We are here. This is what we are here for. We are going to start. We are lining up people to come and help us with some things like that, to help the soldiers of the future, leaders of the future, community leaders of the future. We want to know. So please put those answers in the comments. And today's practical takeaway, okay? We are focusing on strengthening communication and leadership. Strengthening communication and leadership. I encourage everyone to find a mentor who will challenge them and help them as they grow as communicators. That is the biggest thing in any aspect of realm you are, is a mentor, learning how to communicate. So I want to recommend joining leadership organizations, veteran networks, or community groups where respectful dialogue is encouraged. We can all learn these things. What is the saying? And don't quote me, y'all. For the lack of it, people will perish for the lack of knowledge. Did I say that right? Did I say that right? People will perish. But however it goes, that is the truth. If you're not out there and reaching out for the knowledge, because again, nobody's perfect, but I have gotten underneath leaders. I'm telling you, because I was a hothead. I was, and I'm not going to sit up here and tell y'all that I was not. But one thing that I have learned over the years, even in today's age, is I have watched people professionally put some money in their place. And
I gave that skill real good.
How do you see? Well, Pat, I'm gonna be learning from you, because
I have that skill. I acquired that.
That is something. But guess what? Like we talked about before, that some of this comes from carrying stress or anger, or unresolved experience. A lot of my anger in the military was from unresolved experiences that made communication for me difficult. And that's why when I grew up in the leadership realm, I knew that when I seen other soldiers in that same space, I saw myself in them. So, I had a first sergeant that said that she was going to put me back on the streets of West Philadelphia. I'm going to put you back on the streets. But she didn't take the time to see. I was so angry and, fighting men in the military. I didn't want to fight women. They were like nothing to me. I always want the guy and the biggest guy. I had a commander when they took me in front of the commander.
It seemed like the women were the hardest fight.
No, the women for me was like, I ain't fighting you. Like, you're a girl. Go.
Not a fight, but the ones that came after you. Because I had a lieutenant that came after me, and she was upset over a PT test. She just challenged me on everything, and I was just bound and determined. I didn't reply to her. Whatever she challenged me on, I said, you can't smoke me. That was my answer to everything.
Look, let me tell you,
You can't
I'm going
smoke
to
me.
say this real quick. I'm going to say this real quick. Look, y'all, you won't believe this, but because I was always I was a protector, and especially against domestic violence because I'm a victim of that. So I was protecting a soldier who was in a domestic violence situation. And let's just say your girl went above and beyond. Okay, I put on all black and knocked on the door. And as soon as he opened the door, it was like, blow. Well, let's just say I got in trouble. But when I was I was so in my head, okay, unresolved experiences. Okay,
Right.
that's what I'm unresolved experiences in my head is like, I'm a protector, I'm gonna protect myself, nobody. And that is my reason for acting out. But none of the leadership took that time
To
to
understand.
to understand and investigate and communicate with me to say, hey, soldier, what's going on? That's why I did it for all of my soldiers. I took the time.
Yeah.
And then they put me in front of a general, not a general, a colonel. I think it was a colonel. And he was just, as he was writing to take all my rank off my chest, he was just writing. And he was like, I don't know what makes you think that you can beat a man. And he was just writing. And I was a young soldier, y'all. This is just a funny story, and I'm gonna end it here. As he was writing, his head was down. I had the first sergeant, the platoon sergeant, and the section sergeant standing behind me. And I said, as I was at parade rest, well, if you step outside, I'll show you.
Ooh.
All I had was a whole bunch of Eddie.
I was like, you had Eddie's everywhere.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! I tell you.
That definitely was a moment.
That was an experience that I'll never forget in my life. And I look back at that experience and I say, man, if they just, but there was a sergeant major. He used to talk to himself and he used to call his wife woman. He'd be on the phone, but he said, you know what? I'm not, because they tried to remove me from the military, but he said, you know what? I'm not going to kick you out, Harvey. At the time, my name was Harvey. He said, I'm not going to kick you out. We're going to rehabilitate you. So he's sent me to another side of the post where I thrived, survived and thrived. And I made all that rank, because when they took the rank off my chest, honey, I think they tried to take my heart off with it, because that was how disrespectful that I was. But it wasn't me being, it was just a soldier who was troubled.
It was hurt. It was hurt. It was hurting and trauma for things that you've gone through, and people don't take that into consideration. But what I used to say in the military that kind of like people thought I was crazy, I said, I can respect the rank. I don't have to respect the person. And people like, how can you do that? I said, because the rank is what it is. The person, the people change. I said, if you're not, I said, so I say stuff out of respect for being a soldier, out of respect for the rank, not necessarily the person, because I don't have to respect the person, but I honor that rank that they hold.
And then I had that same mentality, but later on I would find ways to, go talk to that NCO, go talk to that and say, hey, because
there was
when I was 30, so I wasn't a young kid. But I want to let people know that there's support is available through resources like the Vet Center program and VA mental health services. Get some
help. It's not, don't be ashamed, men and women alike. If you need help, go reach out, please.
Check out Burn, Break, and Become Facebook posts. So you can also find Burn, Break, and Become on LinkedIn, where there are great resources out here that I will be posting on the website and on all our social media platforms for us to, find and get some help. That is our time. We are over time, but today was a very good conversation. I want to thank you all for joining us, and remember to stay connected. We will see you all next week, next Tuesday and Thursday at 12 noon-ish. With Q&A with Bree and Pat. Thank you guys for joining us, and that is our time, and we'll see you on the other side.
Have a blessed day.